Now, liberals today think that Americans, especially white Americans, are pretty much the worst thing out there. In other words, anyone who doesn't sign on to the view that America is fundamentally racist and evil, expect them to be called a white supremacist and then publicly vilified. For example, according to a new book, Biden assessed Fox News as one of the most destructive forces in the United States. And reporters Jonathan Martin and Alexander Burns write that Biden was even more critical of Fox Corp patriarch Rupert Murdoch, telling an unnamed associate last year that Murdoch was the most dangerous man in the world. I mean, think about that. Think about what that really means. More dangerous than Putin, more dangerous than Xi, more dangerous than Kim Jong-un. Okay. And as the Angle has told you many times, today's Democrat Party believes that conservatives are a far bigger threat to America than the most powerful dictators in the world. We warned you about this. And remember, more evil than the dictators who have nuclear weapons pointed at the United States. Well, and we were right. Now, but some people require more direct proof. Now, let's take the case of Andrew Sullivan, the supremely talented writer and well-known commentator who wrote the seminal book for gay marriage and is vehemently anti-Trump. Perhaps he thought that his withering criticism of Trump would have earned him fair treatment as a guest on a show hosted by the ever-snarky Jon Stewart. But he was wrong. Instead, for merely insisting that the story of America is not one of irredeemable evil, he was annihilated. Here's how it all started. Jon Stewart paying homage to the race gods of the BLM movement.
The problem with white people. For however sincerely we want to reckon and listen, the truth is America has always prioritized white comfort over black survival. Black people have had to fight so hard for equality that they've been irreparably set back in the pursuit of equity. And any real attempt to repair a ton of that damage, reparation, sets off white people's "they're coming for our" alarm.
Now, the panelists on set nodded along, and they themselves hit all the hot buttons, arguing that white supremacy is alive and well in the United States. Well, Andrew Sullivan hit back and defended America.
It's very hard to agree with some of the very premises that are being expressed tonight, as if everything is already settled. We know this country is, for example, a white supremacy. Well, I don't believe that. I think it's possibly the most absurd hyperbole I've ever heard. I'm an immigrant, so I have a slightly different view of this. I can tell you, America in 2022 is the most multiracial, multicultural, tolerant, diverse melting pot that has ever existed on planet Earth, and there is no other place on Earth even like it. That's why 86% of our immigrants are non-white.
Let me ask you a question, though, Andrew, because
this country.
Now, reasonable points, all well expressed. But not to the other panelist, a woman named Lisa Bond, who makes a living lecturing other white women about how racist they are. She was deeply offended that a white man would try to argue that the U.S. is not systemically racist.
This is what happens when you don't talk about it. This is what happens when white people don't talk about it, is you have racist dog whistle tropes like this that actually perpetuate and perpetuate and perpetuate. So I did not come on this show to sit here and argue with another white man. That's one of the reasons that we don't even engage with white men at Race to Dinner. You know, because quite honestly, if white men were going to do something about racism, you had 400 years. You could have done it. Okay? So
I am 58 years old.
I'm shutting you down right now.
I am not responsible for anyone before me.
Oh, he said, I'm not responsible for anyone before me. That is a trigger warning.
We have an awful history. Its remnants are still felt today.
We also have a great history, John.
Say it again?
We also have a great history.
But I think you're minimizing it.
I think by calling today white supremacy, you are minimizing actual white supremacy.
Andrew, you're not living on the same planet we are. Honestly. I really don't think you are.
I think you are not living in the planet most Americans are, which is why this kind of extremism, this anti-white extremism, is losing popular support, is creating a backlash, is going to elect Republicans and undo a lot of the good you think you're doing.
Now, Sullivan is right. He might have asked Stewart, a graduate of William and Mary, if Stewart had burned his old diploma on his soccer jerseys. After all, the college was built in part by slave labor, and some of its presidents owned slaves.
I don't care if we say we're progressive. I don't care if we're literally members of the KKK. Every single white person upholds these systems and structures of white supremacy, and we have got to talk about it.
If I could finger snap, I would finger snap right now. Let's remove it then from the...
calling me a racist, John.
You've been doing a pretty good job with it yourself there, so...
Yeah, so that's where we are in America. That woman is passed off as some type of expert in anything. And you're a white supremacist or a racist if you don't agree with Jon Stewart that immigrants shouldn't be blamed for slavery. This is the ongoing scam of the anti-racism movement. Ibram Kendi, Nikole Hannah-Jones, they get paid handsome sums to tell corporate and academic audiences how awful to the core they all are. And they now have thousands of acolytes across the country who are also eager to cash in as well, or who, like Stewart, just enjoy the moral superiority they feel by calling everyone else a racist. So if you refuse to buy into the allyship, don't you love that word, and the privilege lingo, if you refuse to say that you support reparations, you are as despicable as any slaveholder from the early 1800s. That is what they believe. You think I'm exaggerating? Well, check out what Jon Stewart's team posted on his own show's Twitter feed.
The problem with white people is everything. The problem with white people is the inherent defense mechanisms that pop up to protect privilege anytime race, equity, or racist systems come up, i.e., I never owned slaves. I think the real problem with white people is how deeply entrenched privilege exists in their everyday lives and how terrified they are to lose it.
The only thing funny about Jon Stewart these days is how blissfully self-unaware he is. Now, this guy was so afraid of debating Andrew Sullivan one-on-one that he needed to have the whole situation be like a 3 against 1. Then he tagged him as a white supremacist. And he's the same sneering prig who 18 years ago lectured the hosts of Crossfire on CNN about the need for more respectful, more informed discourse. Well, today he's just another race activist, desperate for credibility in an America that, as Andrew said, is the most multicultural, multi-ethnic that it's ever been. He and almost the entire Democrat Party, radicalized by the fringes, rail against the old pernicious practice of redlining, while they essentially hope to redline their political opponents. Instead of trying to win over America First populists or independents like Sullivan or someone, let's say, like a Glenn Greenwald, they try to destroy them or make them so toxic that they can't even make a living in any mainstream setting. Again, these people see no logical inconsistency in the fact that the CCP is still active on Twitter while Trump, maybe someone like Sullivan, is banned. In fact, they're fine with that. They have to ban Trump. They have to investigate him. They have to hope to prosecute him, put him in jail, anything but debate him and try to defend their abysmally horrible record running our schools, our cities, and the country. And that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.